Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This big show we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 1 finale of Sweet Home. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up in the aftermath of last episode. And as they are coming down the elevator, Hyun kind of gets in the way and protects. And I'm sticking with the name this time. Woo Myung, because they're like, right, they're more like, hey, let's get this guy after all he's done. But for Hyun, it's like, no, I'm gonna protect him because he's like me. The fact is, he feels kinship with him because there's always been that barrier of separation between him and the others because no one else is going through the process like he has. And I think he's just riddled with guilt over how everything else played out last episode. And I mean, he's been going through a lot. Hyun's got a lot on his mind, and he's carrying a lot of weight, and so he doesn't want Woo Myung to die. But you could tell like he's happy about that because it's like, yeah, I've got you on my side. And like I said last episode, he's on that whole we're the superior species because he showcased, like he talks about what happened to him. It's like, right, you think I signed up to be an experiment, but they tried to do everything. They try to cut it out of me. They try to freeze it out of me. They thaw it out of me, this and that, scorch it out of me, but it didn't come out because it's not something else. It is me. I'm so intertwined with this. Once again, we're the next evolution. I figured he was on some, we're the next evolution of this species. We're far superior than humans. Now, what confused me was that sequence where we saw him being experimented on, and we saw like the blood from him go in someone else. I was like, wait, what? And then that guy got up. I was like, wait, so are we saying? And it seems this episode indicates that I guess that's the true form of the monster inside of him. It can move from body to body because it did seem like blood bending was kind of its thing to some extent. Once again, we don't really know the full like weight of like what it's able to do, but this isn't the original body. It moves from body to body. It is out of any of the monsterizations, it's the most like a virus because it is an entity, a sentient entity that's moved from body to body. And I don't know if it's because I'm assuming this because the body that's Woo Myung's is one of the researchers, one of the people that was testing on them. So, I mean, who's to say that was even his first body? Maybe it was, so maybe this is his second body. Who knows? But he tried to get Hyun on his side to realize, like, right, we're in this together. I'm going to leave this place and try to find other people like us who are in a similar circumstances. The government's trying to gather up special infectees. I'm trying to do the same, just on the opposite spectrum. Because while they're all trying to debate this, there's the whole situation with no, it was actually Eon Yo and Eon Hyuk who were having this conversation. Because she's like, oh, are you going to hand over Hyun? But he's like, no, I'm not stupid. The fact of the matter is this, if something's too good to be true, it most likely is. If it sounds too good to be true, it most likely is. Because it's like, right, they're promising protection, but he's like, that doesn't make any sense considering that you can't control or predict when someone's going to give into them, like the infection is going to happen and so the monsterization process is going to start. You can't predict that. So how are you going to decide to put a whole bunch of people in a single shelter and you can't really control that? He knows that it's BS. They're trying to get what they want in the end, and they're just going to use anyone they can to get what they want. So he had no plans on handing Hyun over. He was going to actually talk to Hyun about it. What you had seen, this kind of look of surprise on Eun Yu's face because she thought her brother was once again going to take the pragmatic approach because she was like, oh, go ahead and be like your normal self. And he's like, no, I am being myself. The pragmatic in me is saying that this smells like BS. So he kind of saw through this. Like but sadly not everyone else responded because one of the group, he ends up stealing the device later on and activating it because he's all about saving himself. Like he overheard like the conversation between Eon Hyuk and Yi Kyung, but they weren't talking about what him and Eon Yu were talking about, how this kind of smells fishy. He just overheard like, oh, the military could show up and they're gonna save us. Like I mean, to be fair, this particular character, always been a little bit of the dissenter, kind of going his own way. Because even with the whole Seong Yoon, he was the one being like, yeah, she can't stay here, but everyone else was the first ones, and he just kind of was like, all right, sure, and kind of went along with it. So I guess they were kind of setting that up even then. That I mean, everyone's got their self-preservation in them, but it kind of popped up the most with him, I think. I can't remember that sequence of events happened. I think that happened after everything went down with Woo Myung. We also catch up with Dusik, who ended up going back to his room because he's hiding away, and he is talking to Miss M about, yeah, I wanted to protect those kids. I told you I couldn't do it without you, but I wanted to. I really, really wanted to try. But he's so scared of what kind of monster he's going to be when he transforms. Will he be the kind that won't hurt anyone, or will I? And he just, that situation, it terrified him. Especially considering, like, hey, she's there, it's still in that state. Because we still, even by the end of the episode, have no idea what that is. That could be a future season 2 thing of that situation turning into what it could. That thing could eventually like hatch or whatever. We don't know. It is essentially like a giant monster placenta or embryo or embryonic sac. Well, however you want to approach it, it feels like that's a birth situation ready to happen. We just don't know what the end result of that's going to be. There's also the monster from last episode. I was bringing it up last episode, talking about, oh, maybe we'll get some answer to it this season, in the season finale. Not really. All we have is the group killing it, which the little boy did not appreciate, nor did Hume, because he's like, no, we don't know what this monster's not hurting anyone, because God knows how long it's been in the building not doing anything to you. To be fair, the security guard was kind of in the same situation. He was like strolling around. It wasn't until he got off that elevator but you also have no idea how many people he might have been upstairs secretly killing. I mean, because he was all over the building. They had no idea where he was and what he was up to, so there's that. But he also did protect a little boy. But the problem is, anyone that would have been on that side of the conversation, Yi Kyung and Samwook, weren't there at the time. So they end up killing a creature, which pushes Hyun to kind of more so choose Woo Myung's side, because, hey, you're right. Humans are going to like trust humans. He's already been on the receiving end of their distrust, so he understands that. And no matter how much he wishes things were different, they're always going to be a little scared of him, a little hesitant. Especially because it's like, hey, this thing's full of monsters, so we don't know where it stands. It ends up burning it. And the reason why the little boy took it so hard, and we had the conversation between him and his sister, is because he, on some level, was thinking, like, what if that was Dad? But for her, it's like, you have to, like, stop it. We could sleep for 10 nights or 100 nights. Dad's not coming back. There's no way that would be him. Who knows? Because we still don't know who that monster is. It could have either just been someone that was in the apartment building. We have no idea. We'll never know. Not unless it's technically alive, but they made sure to burn it pretty badly, so it might be dead. So, and Mr. On tried to be the mediator between the both of them by being like, hey, you both need to be there for each other. Hey, don't fight with your sister, because at the end of the day, all you have is each other, especially because his issue was, hey, my sister she didn't listen. I hate you because you wanted to kill that monster along with everyone else, even though he wasn't bad. Because yes, there was some part of him hoping and believing on some level that, hey, you protected me. Maybe it's because you're my dad somewhere deep down inside. But she's also coming from the perspective of, it's a dangerous monster and I don't want you to die. It's my job to protect you. So she probably, it's a sister thing of, I might do things you might not agree with. There was even that gift from Dusik, which we got after the fact, but Mr. On had retrieved it for him. It was something he had been working on. And he'd made these little medals for both of them, which was really sweet. His kind of like a gift for them. I guess it might have been after he started showing any symptoms, or maybe he just in general was like, yeah, who knows if that was something he felt like, I don't know if I'm going to be here to give this to them just in case. Or maybe he just felt too embarrassed to give it to the kids. But he had made it specifically for them, and it sadly ends up being like a parting gift. Which we'll circle back to soon enough. But Speaking of Mr. On, he noticed something and ended up starting digging where the bodies are buried, and it's like, what's that all about? And he was so focused on it, he kind of kept going, even though Yuri was in it. Because I think he kind of entered some kind of state where he was just so fixated on it. He kind of, because it seemed like he was kind of, I think his illness was catching up, and so he was kind of blinking out. Because we didn't even see him really realize that Yuri had died, or like was, because Sang-wook saw her inhaler, and it's like, oh, she's out. So he ends up running towards her and getting her and trying to leave. But, Woo Myung stops him because it's like, hey, they might contact the military, but Hyun's like, right, let them go out there, they might die, whatever, so on and so forth. It becomes this situation of, it's hard to say whether or not Hyun is kind of like, seeming like he's sliding away from the humans and more so on Woo Myung's side of things, but it also seems like, I don't know, it seems like he might have been playing along just so that Woo Myung would leave them alone. But the moment they're walking out, trying to rush, because Sang-wook is trying to get her to a car, trying to probably like leave somewhere to find some like medicine or something for, another inhaler. But he ends up, Woo Myung ends up shooting her and at Sang-wook, and then starts shooting at everyone. Because it's like, yeah, I'm not going to like draw attention and have the military come here. I can't. But also, I think it was mainly to make a point to Hyun about, hey, like these humans, they're beneath us. Like here you are being so sympathetic to these humans. That moment of him letting them go made him go like, oh, you're still giving into your human weakness. We're beyond this bullshit. Why are you still giving? All right, fine. I'm going to push you into giving in more. And he ends up shooting at everybody. And sadly, Byung-il dies, which is so sad too, because he was making this whole point to the dog lady. I've been calling her the dog lady the entire time. Her name is Hye-in. It came up like once earlier in the season, but I've just always kept referring to her as the dog lady. But he was saying like, hey, I'm a man of action. And see what happens when a person who normally wouldn't do something does something. He's like, I told you I was a man of action, and kind of died in this regard. It's just, the other people that died were some of the nameless people that were just in the background. They were just kind of no-lined characters. Like, there's the characters we've come to know, we see more frequently heard dialogue from, but there were some that was just in the background that never had any. I think some of them ended up dying. But when it's all said and done, the whole situation sets Hyun off, and he gives in to his power, and he transforms. Because he ends up finding out from Woo Myung, oh, you never actually killed anyone. The person you killed, you think you killed Seong-yeon? No, she actually was dead. I possessed her body and attacked you. That was just me, I guess in his own twisted way, having a little fun. Maybe he could, who knows? The monsters can't really sense each other, because even Hyun needed to use the phone. So I don't know if, but I guess he thought it would be more fun this way, and like, oh, how to screw with the group. So maybe even he was caught by surprise when Hyun revealed himself. When he's like, oh, I found a kindred spirit. Because my thing last episode when he was like, oh, told Jeong Seong, oh, you crossed the line. I thought it was about that lady, but I think it's because, hey, I found a kindred spirit. Oh, I like this kid. Oh, you're trying to kill him? Yeah, that's where you cross the line. I thought it was about killing someone else that was like them, but it's like, no, Seong-yeon was already dead. And I already felt like the guy was a little off to begin with. Like I said, last episode, I already felt that, oh, we're superior to human situation. But Hyun gives into his powers more, and his arm warps into like a wing, which obviously getting big, Jesus, one winged angel type of shit. It's like, okay, you're in your Sephiroth bag a little bit, but his entire arm morphs into a wing. It's kind of like a bladed, serrated feathers. And Woo Myung didn't seem too concerned. He was like, oh my god, it's so beautiful. Yeah, give into it. And he ends up wrapping Woo Myung in it, and like obviously it starts spiking through, like it goes through his hand and through his eye, but it also dissolves the body into like goop, and you're like, interesting. But obviously after that he's still out of control, and the others are trying to kill him. I believe it was Jisoo and Eon Hyuk But that's also because like Jisoo made a promise to like kill him if he ever transformed. And Dusik is the one that comes down and stops him. He's like, it's okay. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. And for him to like break down like that, it's like I said, I think it's similar to the Seong Yeong situation of an adult telling him it's not his fault. Once again, getting this like adult comfort from people he didn't even get that from his own family, and to kind of have that from strangers means a lot, especially because like this. I mean, this man is the reason why he's still alive. This is the first like person he really connected with like upon this whole situation, like set him on his path, and for things to be this way. And it's just like, it's not your fault, kid. It's not your fault, you know. And just for things to end that way, and when Hyun kind of comes to his senses, he's looking at Dusik. He's like, "Who is he? Why is my heart broken?" Just looking at him, it's like his memories are faded away. And in that moment, he just gets up and walks away. And they didn't lock him back up. He locked himself up, and it's like how much of his memories are going. At the time, it was unclear, but you can see he was kind of drowning in it. Like I'm sure a lot of his own previous life, what was going as well. And at the same time, this is all going down. We had the whole situation with San Wook and Yuri outside. They got to the car, but they're both not in any state to go anywhere. And Yuri's like, "I killed someone." He's like, "No, that wasn't a human. That was a monster." She's like, "I don't want that to be the last thing I remember." And San Wook is like, "Then don't let it be the last thing you remember. Forget it." And she's like, "You forget it too," about because he defined himself, I think, as a monster because of the terrible things he did. And just for them both to die like that is, I think it's sweet after everything, like for those characters to be the ones that kind of be there for each other. And that's why I'm like, that's what I was saying before, like Mr. On, because of his illness, I think he was stuck in his like way, where it's like he couldn't recognize what was kind of going on at the time, even about Yuri, because he wasn't really as concerned about her. So, but after giving the kids the medals, he ends up dying. Like I think it was already in the final stages, so they have to bury Byung Il, and they have to bury him. I guess they don't go outside. I guess everything happens maybe a little too quickly, but they don't go outside about Yuri, because I don't know if they can even because I don't think they went out there to grab their body. We only saw them bury Mr. On and Byung Il, so they might not. They definitely didn't bury Yuri or Songwoo, which we'll get to in a bit. But this is what led to the whole conversation between Song Hyuk and I'm sorry, Eon Hyuk and Yi Kyung about not trusting the military. So like what they were going to do, and they ultimately, when they were burying Mr. On and Byung Il, they ended up finding out what he was digging for. I forgot what the context was. I don't remember if it was a previous, because I forgot to talk about it in a previous episode. Mr. On was kind of telling this scary story about during the war that he remembered being in this exact building. And there was a whole conversation of like, oh, we need to find like an underground bunker. I don't remember if it was him or Duke Sill, like who was talking about it. But he ultimately ended up finding it because he was aware of this building. So I think that's what he finally noticed when he was there, like paying his respects at the graves. He was like, wait, this is it. This is the spot. And like the last of his energy, all his focus was focused on finding this underground tunnel. And everyone could get through. But when the time comes and the military shows up, Hyun wants to turn himself over, but Eon Yu stops him, and it's like, right, you don't have to go. You can choose to stay here with us, because the little boy gives him his little thing that has a medal, and it's like, yeah, you're cold, like you want to like stay warm. Are you going to go somewhere? And he's like, I have to go. Because I think on some level, whether he fully remembers everything or not, he blames himself. He's beating himself up, and it's like, right, if I turn myself over, maybe you guys will be okay. But they're like, no, just stay with us. No one really fought that too much. It's like, no, just stay with us. And they were all going to go underground, except Hyun didn't follow them. And Eon Hyuk told Eon Yu like, no, I'll go back. I promise I'll be back. And then later on, she remembers their conversation when he was like, right, when someone is making a promise about something that seems impossible, don't believe them. And now she realizes at that last moment, like her brother's final words, it's like, oh, he was lying to me. He made a promise. And it's so heartbreaking too, because I was like, did he convince Hyun to stay back? But just as Hyun was about to turn himself over to the military, Hyuk is like, you don't have to, because Hyun was like, oh, I should have given this back. He's like, it's not too late. You can go back. But Hyun had made his decision, and I think Hyuk wasn't going to stop him. He wasn't in any position to, because we find out, I guess he's been showing symptoms, and he figured like, right, let the others go on their way, and I'm gonna stay here, because I didn't know what he was doing. And he's got her headphones and her CD player, and he's looking at it, and the thing she was looking at is a family photo. Like, despite the hard ass that she is, like I said, she was overcompensated. She was staring at this photo of them, and he's looking at it, and he's smiling at the photo, and he's tearing up, and I'm just kind of tearing up thinking about it. But it's like, he knows that this is most likely goodbye for him and his sister, because he doesn't know what type of monster he's going to be, and his nose starts bleeding. So it's probably like a thing of, there's so many people who are going through symptoms that we didn't get to see on screen, which that's why I'm so curious to read more of the webtoon as well. I haven't had a chance to circle back to it at this point, but I'm curious how many of those symptoms we didn't see on screen, like, would you got more time with in the webtoon or not. I don't know. He's not dead. He's just there as a monster, and who knows what the aftermath of that will be. But Hyun goes outside, and while he's going outside, he's remembering all these things, like that conversation he had with Ji Eung, where she was like, "I'm sorry," and then Yeong telling him, "Oh, like, how did you bear everything that you were going through?" He's getting shot, but he's still stepping forward, kind of turning himself over. At the same time, everyone underground is making their way forward. We get this thing of saying like 30 something, but they didn't translate it, so I don't know if it's like 30 minutes. I doubt it. It doesn't seem like it was a 30-day situation, so it might have been like maybe 30 hours later. Might have been what that says. Who knows? But it was like 30 something. And he ends up finding her dog Bomb downstairs, and it's like, where have you been? And he ends up pointing him in the direction of a ladder that takes him outside. And once they get outside, it's okay. So we escaped, but the military is there waiting, because they ended up tracking the device, because Home Dude kept it. He's like, hey, I'm the one that pressed the button, but because Ki Yeong wasn't the one who did, because of that, it's like, oh, I guess you don't care about what happens to someone. It's like, because she just doesn't trust them, so she wasn't sure that she was going to get an answer. But the problem is that she's like, yeah, but our deal isn't over yet. So I guess they must know about either her, because of her connection with Hyun, maybe that's a part of it, or because they read her record and found out exactly who she is. Because I don't know if she ever really named herself. Well, no, because they know who she is, because they know about her song. They know about Songwon, so they're like, right, it's a thing of they have to know about her. So I guess, hey, to let the others go and for them to be okay, you're going to work for us, because they know she has special, like, I mean, once again, everyone has their military history, but she was specifically special forces. So we see her suited up at the end. So I'm guessing, hey, you work for us now. That's going to be our deal. And by doing so, we make sure that these people survive. Because I forgot to talk about it. Woo Myung had a conversation with Ki Yeong and Eon Hyuk about the Army's Operation Golden Hour. That basically, while the Army and the military is still active, their plan is to basically go full scorched earth, like go place to place to place and wipe out anyone, human or not, because they don't want this to kind of continue spreading, and it's so unpredictable. They don't know what's causing it. They don't know how to tell when someone's going to enter the monsterization process. So it's kind of like, let's go scorched earth on this. So I think that's probably part of like going to be Yi Kyung's duties going forward. But the only way to ensure the people she is with like are taken care of. Once again, this is all on Home Dude, him doing this because he pressed that button, so looking for self-preservation, not realizing the catalyst he would set in motion in some regards. I mean, there's a lot of other things that were play. Woo Myung was, like I said, I can't remember. I think he pressed the button because I think that conversation between Yi Kyung and Woo Mi and Eon Hyuk, I think that conversation happened after everything went down between Woo Myung and Hyun, where Woo Myung seemed like he was dead. I think that all went down then, but I could be mistaken. But he definitely didn't have the full context to push that button because he didn't know. He was just looking out for himself. I don't know if anyone else would have made that decision in his place, but at the end of the day, he is the one who made that decision. So I completely forgot to talk about this, so I'm going to add it here. I forgot we found out what Eon Yu's promise with Hyun was. Her promise to him that she kept to herself that he never knew was promise to survive for yourself and like the rest of us, essentially, which obviously ends up kind of playing out in the end. But at the time, because his memory was what it was, she wasn't sure if he remembered it, but kind of getting that other perspective on things and seeing how everything plays out in the end. It's very tragically poetic in a lot of ways. It just kind of, like I said, I'm just going to probably put this in at the end, but I wanted to include that at some point in the recording just because I'd completely forgotten to talk about that as well. I'd actually completely forgotten about the scene until I was going back to get some shots from the episode, so screenshots from the episode. We did see the sludge. This is where I'm kind of circling things back about the whole Sang-wook's body and everything, because we saw that what was inside of Woo Myung ended up escaping inside of the truck. And once again, whose body was never buried? Sang-wook's and Yuri's, they were still out there. So he ended up possessing Sang-wook's body. And so later on when Hyun's waking up, that's him in Sang-wook's body. I was like, that's tragic. The also interesting thing is, like I said before, the actor who plays Sang-wook, Lee Jin-wook, I know him from Bugasu Immortal Souls. This came out in Sweet Home Season 1 came out in 2020. Bugasu Immortal Souls came out 2021. I don't know if they were roughly filmed around the same time or what, but it's just my point is like, if you're familiar with Bugasu, he's possessed by something that basically makes him immortal. And he's been alive for like 600 years. It's a whole thing. So for him to kind of be possessed in this show is kind of ironic too. So that's why I'm wondering which one was kind of filmed first. Because Bugasu Immortal Souls isn't based on anything. At least Sweet Home is based on a webtoon. So it's from where things takes us from here. When will we catch up with the survivors and what happened to them, or Hyun and the Sang-wook of it all? Just makes that whole situation even more tragic in the grand scheme of things. And what about Eon Hyuk? Is this the last one we've seen of him? Will he end up being a special infectee? It's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next season ends up taking us. Obviously, I'm getting to season 1 fairly late. But yeah, season 2's already been out for like a day or two at the time I'm recording this. It's like, 3 o'clock in the morning, Sunday. And so this and episode 9, which I did yesterday, should be up today. They should both be going up today, so I'm excited to jump into season 2 and see where all of this takes us. Once again, a lot less people into that monsterization situation than I thought. We only had Dusik, Seong Yeong, and Eon Hyuk. Oh, and Miss M are like the main people we've spent a little more time with. They're the only ones that went through the monsterization process. And obviously Hyun went up through it further than anyone else. So, but like I said, I'm curious to see where all this takes us going into season 2. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.